The real title for this album should be just Alustrium 3 falling ass backwards into songwriting.
So I have the fantastic gentlemen that are Mike and Chris with me here from Alustrium. How are you guys?
We're all right. I'm all right. I don't know about Mike.
I'm alive. So, okay.
Good. Let's just dive in, straight away into the themes of A Monument to Silence. So is it a concept album? What themes are going on there?
Yeah, it's absolutely a concept album. It's basically a story that illustrates what happens when people do nothing. In this case, it's for somebody who is suffering from, depression, suicidal thoughts, things like that. That's what the name refers to.
Okay, so is it an actual like a physical monument, or is it like a metaphorical monument?
It's a metaphorical monument. So like the story itself is the monument. You know what I mean? There's a long progression throughout the album that details. Jerry's gonna kill me because I'm gonna butcher this, but it kind of goes through the different sort of states of mind that the character feels. So starting out with just being in a very dark, kind of depressive place, trying to escape from those feelings, becoming very disassociated, and then there's a point where it starts to kind of turn around mentally, where it's like, oh, maybe there is some hope. There are some people trying to reach out, but ultimately the people that are reaching out aren't really helping very much. So yeah, it's kind of calling out the current. I don't know if culture is the right word, but when you have, I think a lot of us have seen this, or even sometimes been guilty of doing this when, we've got a friend who's suffering from depression or has, any kind of suicidal thoughts, or, if they make a post like that on Facebook or whatever, and, you see people reaching out of, oh, don't think like that, stay positive, you've got so much to live for, all that kind of stuff. And like, it's like, that doesn't actually help. You know what I mean? In most cases.
Oh, right. Okay. I think that's, it's a very pertinent subject, especially, the year that we've all just kind of lived through. I'm sure that there's a lot of like mental health issues that a lot of people are now dealing with that maybe they wouldn't have in the past. Right.
Or if they were dealing with it, they've now been more exacerbated by all the isolation and stuff that everyone's been dealing with. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Has it kind of had a mental effect on you? Obviously, like I'm sure it has in a way, but to that sort of extent, I guess is what I mean.
It can get really overwhelming, and for people like us who exist in an industry that thrives on people being able to be in the same place, not being able to do that for a very long time. Has definitely taken its toll, in several aspects of our lives. Still, even though now things are starting to open up, they'll still have those kind of moments where I just kind of start panicking inside, and like, oh, are we ever going to actually get everything back, or is this all just a tease? You know what I mean? we all thought this was only going to be 2 weeks, a year and a half ago. So yeah, I mean, I can't speak to Mike's experience or anybody else's, but I'm sure that just about everybody, I mean, at least in this industry, can probably attest to something similar.
I am so sorry.
It's anyway. All good, man. You're here now. You're here now.
I'm here now. That's all that matters.
I was gonna say, is it not kind of because you've been sat on this album for so long? Like, do you ever, when you're listening to it, you're kind of like, oh, I wish we kind of tweaked this and we kind of changed things like that, because you've had such a long time to sit with it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the one that does all the production. So from that perspective, at least, I mean, I'm very, it's very difficult for me to even call something done ever, because especially when it's my own band, so but perfection is the enemy of completion. So but I get stuck in that rut a lot. But yeah, I mean, the biggest fear when we were like, let's do an EP, I was like, well, I've learned stuff since we finished the record. Like the EP is gonna sound better than the record now.
Well, one of the things that really caught my ear on this Hollow Ache and basically kind of got me super, like excited for this record was that melody, the one which basically kind of undulates throughout the record and everything like that. And I was just wondering, how did you guys come up with it? Because it's so like distinctive and like also really profound at the same time.
I remember being at my parents' house and they have like a really nice like baby grand piano. It's all like white. It's fucking gorgeous. And I think I was like waiting for a phone call, and I was just like fucking around on keys and trying to like just pretend that I still play piano, which I really don't. And then I just stumbled upon that little melody, and I think I sent Chris a video of like my hands just going like dude, like just like the main melody, like, what do you think? Like just expecting him to get it, and surprisingly he was like, yeah, it's cool, let's go with it. So it was just really just kind of messing around on an instrument that I haven't seriously played in decades.
In the context of an interview, there isn't an interesting story as like there wasn't a eureka moment. There wasn't a like, wow, that's gonna be it, we're gonna continue that. It's just like that just ended up there are certain advantages to concept albums from a musical perspective, in that when you run out of ideas for a certain song, you're like, maybe we just bring back something we've already done.
Looking at like at least what made me want to show Chris was like, it had that like, like it wasn't too dark sounding, but it was haunting. Like I felt like it's something that could be explored in different contexts that, could be like a nice little, almost like an Easter egg for the people that are, acutely listening. But I don't know. It's a cool little guy.
What for you is kind of for you both, I guess, is the most important element in songwriting?
For me, at least, I would say it's open lines of communication, and really like, I mean, the phrase is pretty hackneyed at this point, but check your ego at the door. It's usually like our kind of unspoken rule is like the strongest passion kind of wins out. Because there's times where like he'll be like, no, I try, like this is gonna be sick, like let me do this, and I'll be like, I don't hear it now, but yeah, go for it, and vice versa, where there'll be things you want to try, and there's that kind of like that blind faith trusting of like, I know that if I didn't like what Chris does, generally speaking, then we wouldn't be working together in the first place. So that's kind of my little walnut of an answer for that. But Chris, I'm sure you have similar thoughts, and if not, this could be a nice Jerry Springer moment.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of a springboard off of that last bit in terms of kind of letting each other go down a couple rabbit holes every now and then. If there's a particular whether it's a full song or a riff or a section or whatever that isn't hitting you the right way, oftentimes we've found several times that it just kind of takes the other one making even the slightest contribution to it, whether it's doing an overhaul on the drum part or adding some layers in a certain spot or things like that. I mean, there's a song on the album called Worthless Offers where the verse riff, the rhythm guitar is very just junk junk junk, just kind of chuggy, and it's got a lot of like ambient layers underneath it, and it didn't originally have those. It just had the chugs, and Mike was like, we should scrap that. It's boring. There's nothing. There's nowhere to go with it. It just doesn't fit the rest of the song. And I thought that maybe adding some little ear candy in there might help it, and that's what completely turned around the section, and we've both had moments like that.
I find it really interesting, like for example, the kind of variety that's on display on this album, like Join the Dead, where kind of like everything kind of subsides, and then you've got that sort of like, I don't know, like kendo drums sort of thing going on. which I
That was all Chris.
really
All Chris. I remember just being at Chris's house and he was like, started messing around with some weird tribal drums. I'm like, that's weird. I don't know what the hell you're doing with that, but just keep going. And then, you know, Chris, you know, it's a good example of like, you know, especially with me and Chris, like we'll bring in half songs to each other sometimes. And it takes like one or two ideas from the other person to crack the arrangement.
I just remember thinking like war drums would sound cool here. and just thinking like, well, you know, I don't know where this would fit lyrically, but this definitely sounds like a more cinematic idea if we could make something like this work. So yeah, a lot of it was just kind of like flying by the seat of our pants.
I was wondering if I could sort of talk about the artwork. What kind of, like for me personally, I kind of interpreted it as, especially after you've mentioned about mental health, is it kind of like someone being fed negativity or something like that, and that's the black tar or something? I don't know.
I think an important thing to take away from it is that, like, you being somebody who's on the outside of the group, were able to, you know, kind of make your own interpretation off of it, which to us is really important, you know, because there's always going to be the objective, you know, theme or message or whatever behind any kind of piece of music or art or anything like that. But we kind of like there to be at least enough of an ambiguity or obscurity or whatever the proper term is, you know, for people to kind of take their own message from it. What I will say is that the image on the cover depicts a specific moment in the album, in the story. It's at the end of a song called "The Plea."
You feel that there's kind of a stigma towards mental health and the way that it's perceived in society today?
I mean, I think there is, but I think especially in the last 5 years, there's been clearly a lot of work done to kind of erase that. You know, like anyone that is, you know, knows, like at least has an intimate knowledge of our band, knows that, you know, we lost a friend to suicide when we were in high school. It was a really good friend of mine, and like that's something that I know like rocked my world and had, you know, you start when you're going through, you know, your adolescence and you have a tragedy like that, you start to question a lot of things and start to see all this stuff. So even I remember, not to get to like be downer here, but I just remember the way that was handled at our school and the way that people kind of, you know, tried to not want to talk about it was extremely damaging to like me and a bunch of our friends. And just seeing how, you know, like as tragedies have happened to other friends and other stuff throughout the years, especially in the past like 5, it's just people seem to have a better understanding that it's something that should have a light shown on it and there's nothing to be ashamed of. Like, I know it's hard to not see yourself and be seen as an outsider when you have something, you know, whether it's depression or bipolar or any of the mental illnesses. But like, it's something that I think we as a community and like a kind of, you know, world, not we the band, because, you know, I feel like we are, but, you know, just like there's been a lot of steps forward in being able to have, like, you know, you see the celebrities talking about it and it getting coverage. So, I mean, in general, I think we're a lot better off than we were, just to shortly answer that.
I think the issue has sort of shifted into what ultimately is the subject matter of the record, in that now that mental health is kind of at the forefront of a certain social conversation. I don't want to use this term because it's used by a lot of people that make me very angry, but it can often be fuel for lack of a better term, virtue signaling in the way that people want to just sort of express that, like, oh, you know, I support you know, people looking after their mental health, or I support my friends with depression or whatever, but it's really kind of just a hollow gesture. If a friend of mine is feeling suicidal, all I can do is do my best to be there for that person as their friend. And, you know, if I know anybody who might be able to help them, or, you know, if there's any like research that somebody can do or I can do or anything like that, then
just encourage them
to get help and to go, yeah, like Mike said, go to a professional, because that's another issue that we run into online. And, you know, we're all guilty of it to some degree in one form or another, in that everyone's an expert now. you know, so the comments might not be, oh, you have so much to live for, but the comments might be, oh, this is how you cure depression. You know what I mean? And it's a dude who, you know, who's got an arts degree like me.
You know, I feel like people kind of have to box you into a specific genre. But one of the things that I really liked about A Monument to Silence is that there's lots of different things happening and lots of, you know, things that I did not expect at all. And I have to say, like, when you brought the melody back for that final solo bit, like my jaw was just like,
that was dumb luck. Like,
really?
So we wrote the first track. I'm pretty.
This Halloween was definitely the first. That was the one that was done very early. So that was
right.
Yeah.
Right, and that one. So that's it. Just getting a little bit, you know, music nerdy with it. That is, we play it on our 6-string guitars, which we always tune to drop C sharp. Okay, and usually when we're on those guitars, the root note is the open string. Because Mike wrote that piano melody, which was in F sharp. Now I'm on the 5th fret, you know, of the C sharp guitar, and I'm trying to build a song around that, right? Mike writes a bunch of riffs on his 8-string, which happens to be tuned to F sharp. And like, we're not good with music theory. Like, we're not paying attention to any of this. But because it's turning into a bit of a long song, we're like, okay, this might end up being the closer on the album. And then when it comes time to do one of those things, as we talked about earlier, where, you know, Mike's ideas kind of dropped at one point, of like, okay, we have an arrangement up until here, where do we go? And I was like, well, can we bring back anything that we've done already? And then I realized it's in the exact same key. And I was like, no fucking way. Not only was it in the exact same key, it was in the exact same, not the exact same tempo, it was in half of the tempo. So this Hollow Wake is at 2:30, and this song we were writing was at 1:15. And I was just like, it's fucking perfect. We have we can now end the record on the most climactic of terms, you know?
We're geniuses.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
From the start, we knew it.
Because it was such a surprise to me and to us, I still listen to that part and I'm like, fuck, that's really sick. Because like it wasn't something that I planned and it worked. It was something that I was like, no shit, I can put this whole fucking thing here, you know?
The real title for this album should be just Alustrium 3 falling ass backwards into songwriting.
So what would you say, to kind of finish things off, what does A Monument to Silence mean to you two personally?
Not only do I feel that this is our best, you know, work as musicians, but I feel a real sense of accomplishment just from the fact that we were able to say, we're going to make a concept record, and we made it work. Because I feel like it's very easy to botch something like that and focus on the wrong stuff. And ultimately, we didn't really have to change a whole lot about what we did.
I think the biggest thing for me is just this overwhelming sense of catharsis, because we've been sitting on this for so long. And I go back through my phone and like delete videos and stuff. And I find like videos of like the genesis of a few riff ideas that are on this record from like 2015. And I'm just like, Jesus, like it's like just having this out there. It's like, I don't know. I guess it's like having a sex tape leak, but a good thing. You're just like, no, don't look. Like, but hopefully you like. So
yeah.
The response we've gotten from the singles has been a great like vote of confidence of like, okay, like at least like what we believe in, we're hearing echoed from a lot of the response. Unbelievable sense of catharsis for me.
Well, thank you so much, dudes. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you guys.
Thanks for your time, dude. Appreciate it.
No problem. All right. Take care, my friends, and I'll see you.
Take care. Be safe.
All right. Have a good night, guys.